Hey everyone, we're just working on a black canvas today, keeping it really simple. I just painted over a canvas using black paint. I've got 3 colors to start, and I'm just going to simply blend them around with a small mop brush. Make sure your mop brush is dry to start. If you really need to, you can add a little bit of water, and I did right here. Make sure you catch the drips. So I'm starting with my lightest color. I'm going to work into my pink, little circles, and then I'm going to go over to the blue. So the blue, the pink will make purple, the blue and the yellow will make a beautiful shade of green. I'll just add a little bit here and there. I'm going to have a little bit of the black still showing through, so I don't want to completely cover the entire canvas. And then I'm going to have a little bit of white I'm going to introduce with a clean, dry mop brush. I'm going to start in the center, little circles again, just going around, picking up all the colors and just traveling around the canvas to make softer pastel tones of what's already there. From this, I'm going to just start making up a landscape intuitively. We're going to keep this really, really simple. Anybody can do this. If you're just brand new to painting, you can follow along. This is very, very simple beginner brush strokes and techniques and color mixing. So once I get the blending that I want, all those soft pastel tones, I'm going to go in for another clean and dry mop brush, tap it into the white, and begin tapping in the first stages of this landscape, the foliage, little bushes, little moss. I'll leave it up to your imagination. You guys can decide what you want it to be in your painting. But this brush is really, really excellent for creating soft bushes and foliage in a painting. So I'm going to add a little bit more on the right side as well. If my paint underneath is wet, which mine is, that is even better because it picks up those colors and you create even more soft tones in your painting. So it's quite magical. It'll work either, however, if your paint is dry or wet underneath. So depends on what kind of a look you want, but you really can't go wrong here. So I'm going to continue going over this pink bluey area here, tapping into the white, and it's going to create a soft kind of lavender looking shade. I'll add a little bit more and create some more layers, giving this a three-dimensional look of trees and a forest, and then a soft little sweep at the bottom and down below where the sun is going to be to create a water effect. The next thing I'm going to do is add a little fence and also some tree trunks and branches with my long liner brush. You want to make sure you get your liner brush really, really wet and then roll it gently into the paint, make the paint really thin, and this is going to be the easiest way to create these long flowing little detailed lines for your tree trunk and all your little branches. So when you run out of paint, try to hesitate pushing harder with your brush, which we all do, especially us beginners. You want to go back, take the time to reload your brush. More water than paint. Then if you want to have a really bright highlight in a thicker area, which I'm doing right here, I'm pushing a little bit harder and using more paint than water because I want it to really show up once it's dry. I'm going to do the same thing over on the right side. Add a few tree trunks and branches. Feel free to add more than what I've got here or even less if you want. You can really take this type of painting in your own direction. I think it's just really fun and easy to follow along though, using any colors you want for the background, blending them softly, and then coming in with a few little taps, either with a fan brush, mop brush, Filbert brush, any kind of stipple brush or stipple technique, and then a few little wiggly lines for tree trunk branches, and then finally a little fence. And this is just a crooked old broken kind of fence, adds a lot of character to this painting, and I think it's just a really tranquil overall painting. A few little lines going lower and lower down into the water, and then I'll add a few lines going through. I'm just going to make sure they're not see-through and just apply a few layers there, and then a few lines across the other way to hold the boards all together, and then add a little bit of a reflection down in the water. So add a few little lines down in the water. Remember, your reflections in the water should be the opposite from what's above. And then I'm going to soften those lines with a little bit of water in my Filbert brush. Before I do that, I'm going to add a few more branches. So just using that liner brush again. Just remember, when you're adding your branches, the more pressure you use, the thicker and harder it is to control the size and the shape. And then, like I mentioned earlier, just softening down below here with a wet little Filbert brush. You can use any brush for this, really. It's just softening what's there to make it look less detailed than what's above, so we know that it's water. And it just helps to balance out everything in the painting. The background is soft, the water is soft, we've got a little bit harsher lines for our branches and our trees, and then of course that soft powdery effect for the leaves and the treetops that we used with and created with our mop brush. And I'm just going to add more white here to the center to really make this sun have a soft glow to it. And then add a few little wiggles with a bit of white paint. I'm going to tint my white in a minute with a little bit of yellow. I'm using a lemon neon yellow, but of course you can use any yellow that you want. I prefer heavy-bodied acrylics, and I prefer using neon paints. I don't always use neon paints in my tutorials, but I want you guys to know that you don't have to have the same paints and colors I'm using to paint along, or the same brushes. I want you to use whatever you have and just paint, because you're going to enjoy yourself and learn so much in the process. And then I'm just going to soften now by tinting my white, like I mentioned, with a little bit of that lemon yellow, creating more of a soft buttery glow around the sun. I'm going to accent that glow around the water, this little creek that flows into a little gentle little waterfall trickling down by that fence, and then go over some of the trees, the bushes in the background, and the trees on the left and the right. So when your painting is all dry, you can really take advantage of transparent paints and glaze over with a dry brush or a little bit of water in your brush. Make sure you don't use too much water though when you're doing this, otherwise it won't show up once it's dry. And finally, coming in with my last layer of highlights on my trees with another mop brush. It's dry. I've got a little bit of white and a little bit of that lemon yellow in there. So I'll just gently add a little bit on the left and over on the right hand side. Make sure you reload your brush whenever you need to, so you have that beautiful soft glow really show up. If you push too hard, it might just end up being like a solid blob, and you won't be able to see that texture that you really want to create with this brush and this effect. The next thing you want to do is just add a little bit down below the base of the trees, a little bit more of the lemon yellow, depending on how much yellow you want in your painting. Keep in mind the yellow over that blue, once it's dry, will take on more of a light soft green shade. The final thing after drying this off completely is taking some of my luminous neon rose, and we're going to add a little bit of a glaze here, which is also the same thing as a filter. Sometimes I call it a filter. And just a little bit of tiniest bit of water in my Filbert brush. I placed a little bit on the end, and I'm going to apply a little bit over on the right hand side as well. This is such a quick and easy way, simple way to really liven up a painting. This makes your experience creating so exciting. Kids love this. Students of all ages love this when I show them, and it's really fun. You can do this and experiment with different colors. It only works if you're using transparent paint, so they must be see-through transparent paints, and you can create so much depth in a painting this way in so many different colors. You can create a iridescent look to your paintings, and if you like this, I have many more videos showing and demonstrating how to filter or glaze over your paintings. So the final step is adding a little bit more white, just a little dab of white to the center of my sun, and I'm going to use a small brush for this, just a little round brush, and a little dab of my titanium white, creating a tiny little circle. Now this painting is all done. I had so much fun doing this and getting to show you guys how to as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon in my next video. Wishing you guys all the best. Bye!